some of those things are hard and uncomfortable for me certain times. Sometimes I have a losing trade and it's really a bummer. And so to choose to not have those discomforts in my life would make it easier in a lot of ways. But I wouldn't be pushing my boundaries and pushing my identity. And so that's a choice. It's a decision. And so it's not going to be familiar, but it could absolutely be worth it. And so in those moments when I'm having a period where I am holding myself back or something not ideal is happening in my life, I'm going to shift that now after reading this book. And I'm going to ask myself, is this an upper limit problem? And I could be uncomfortable because I'm getting ready to push through a ceiling. And I am all about breaking ceilings because, especially in trading, I mean, it's such a beautiful opportunity of like, you can make so much money.
Hey, welcome back. Here at the Market Mamas podcast, I cover a wide range of topics from the intricacies of day trading to mindset mastery and psychological growth, with the goal of the conversations being next level growth for all of us. My name is Becky, and I'm a US-based futures day trader from the Pacific Northwest. My trading experience includes trading stocks, options, crypto, and futures, with both trading a personal account as well as with prop funding companies. Over time, I found that I most enjoy the fast-paced world of intraday futures trading, so that is my primary day trading focus now. Thank you for joining me on the Market Mamas podcast today.
Hey guys, so it's been a little bit since I've done a must-read episode, but I recently read a book that I was obsessed with, and I had to tell you all about it and my takeaways and the main lessons from it because they're really powerful for anyone who's pursuing goals outside of what they were raised as or what is normal or what is expected, or even where they're pushing to and they're finding resistance. Because I certainly know that that is the case for a lot of day traders, especially traders who don't come from a family of traders or a family in finance or a family that is in entrepreneurship and business success. If you are coming to trading without a background like that, sometimes it's really hard to push through to upper boundaries. And it maybe feels harder than it is. And maybe there's a psychological element to that, right? Well, that's the focus of a ton of books out there, honestly, of like breaking through barriers and ceilings and expectations and finding success on the other side of that instead of sabotaging yourself and pulling yourself back under, right? And so that is the core energy behind this next book. But the way that he taught it and spoke to it in the book was so powerful. So you guys, today we're going to talk about the book, The Big Leap by author Gay Hendricks. I stumbled across this as a couple other books had mentioned it. And so I put it in my queue. And then finally another book had mentioned it. And I was like, okay, it is time. Like I need to do that because in my own personal trading, I am encountering some resistance. I'm encountering I've been getting payouts, but then I will, have to reset and I will encounter a day where I just am not seeing it. And then I'll go on a little bit of a downturn and then I'll have to have, a little period where I'm like, re-energize myself and get back in sync with my trade plan and trade well again and then get the payouts to flow again. And so knowing that I am encountering some resistance in my own trading journey makes me even more hungry to figure out the why and figure out the underpinnings of what's going on and what I need to work through in order to be able to stay at the higher levels that I'm pushing towards. And this book really kind of blew that wide open because the whole concept of it is the idea of the upper limit problem, which has been said in many other ways, right? But the whole idea is that we have a ceiling, a thermostat that we are comfortable with, and a range of success that feels acceptable and natural and comfortable. And so when we get much beyond that, or we may have success that is outside of that, then we subconsciously create problems or drama or an injury or an illness that will bring us back down to some neutrality and some more comfortable levels of success and achievement and relationships and stance. And relationships, right? This crosses over in this book into your love life, your success, your finances, all of the main pillars of our lives that we're trying to push through to greater levels. What is happening when we are constantly pulling ourselves back under? Now, I think that this is important because for traders, especially, we can see this, right? You can have a winning streak. You can have multiple successful days. You can get your account to thresholds where you are achieving payouts or where you're meeting certain metrics. And then what happens? Like you get to consistently profitable. Does it hold? Well, not always. Oftentimes, a lot of us will find that that level of success is met with hitting a wall and making poor choices and slinking back under where we used to be. So we all know that that exists, right? If you don't know it, you probably have felt it. And if you still disagree with me, just think about it for a minute. Like, have you ever pushed through to higher metrics and then found that they were not sustainable, that it was too uncomfortable, and that you will find yourself going back into habits that were causing poor outcomes? Because I certainly have. And the way that this author, Mr. Hendricks, put it, it was like basically we are getting out of our comfort zone, and instead of pushing to make that more comfortable, we are bringing ourselves back down. And so that's the subconscious is uncomfortable with the new level of success. And there's multiple different explanations in the book of people who have been wildly successful, many names that we have heard of. And that when they have gotten to those roles of authority or prestige or financial success, there has been backsliding. Was the main example in that book being the lottery winners, right? When you are comfortable with a certain level of life, a certain level of finance and success, and the level that you are paying your bills and living your life with, when you all of a sudden have all of this wealth that you did not, gradually, slowly earn and become comfortable with, almost all of them revert back or even go more in the hole in a short number of months to years after earning that lottery payout, because it's so uncomfortable. They don't know how to manage it. They haven't become the person that has that wealth. And so I think that this is an important concept to cover, and a book that I would 10 out of 10 recommend you guys read on your own time as well after we talk about it today, because it will give us tips and examples, and you can have aha moments throughout reading it of like, dang, I really have like pushed myself and done some really cool stuff, and then felt that like fall back inward. And so that, what do we do as traders in that situation, right? Well, we get really confident, then you start to overtrade, you oversize, you revenge trade, or ignore your stop in order to not be taken out. And that can lead to all kinds of like difficulties in your P&L, because it pulls you back down, and then you get frustrated, and then you run the risk of having your mindset taking a little bit hit of like, maybe it's me and what's going on, and I got to take a step back, and you get some hesitation and you get some fear in your situation. And so I think that plays into, and what Mr. Hendricks says in the book is that we have some subconscious beliefs about our life that maybe were there since childhood, and some things that happened when we were younger, and we were maybe not given like full love and appreciation and the space and breadth to achieve all that our hearts desired and be held up and given the faith poured into us that we could achieve everything. And so as adults, when we are doing things where we're trying to have full faith in ourselves and believe in ourselves, there's that subconscious underlying thought that where as children we encountered like, stay in your lane and don't outshine your siblings. And there's a number of factors that can play into childhood, parents having financial struggles, and then you see that and you witness it and you feel like you're a part of the expense and you need to be more frugal, and all of that can play into our core mindset that we don't consciously have control over. And so that could make us feel like, maybe you don't deserve success, or I can't out earn my parents or my siblings or friends. I need to stay within this box that everyone thinks is nice and neat and cute and reasonable and doesn't make anyone feel any kind of way, because heaven forbid we should make other people uncomfortable. I'm sorry, but that's not a reason to not win. And I know that, yet I still have the problems that were written about in this book, which is probably why this is one that I recommend for you guys, because the books that really influence me, that carry weight, that I want to re-listen to, that I want to understand the concepts even more, that sometimes when I'm listening to them when I'm driving, I will rewind so that I can listen to a certain concept again, because I do believe that this is something that a lot of traders have to push through. And I would even say maybe 80 to 90% of traders, because if you don't come from a sort of really rock solid base of like belief in abundance and your ability and your capability, and that financial success is destined for you, and so it's normal when you start winning to keep winning, those people I think have a slightly smoother mental game track of growing into their expectations of success and wealth, versus someone who comes from more of a scarcity background, such as myself, and has to constantly reframe that into the abundance mindset, which is not at all natural or subconscious. So it's a purposeful energy that I have to put into that, of saying that I've never had this before, and it's weird to even think that I could be a millionaire trader, but why the F not? Like, why not? And so the logic there is, of course I can. But the subconscious is, I don't want to feel like I'm leaving the people behind of the, the small hometown vibes that I came from, and that I'm like better than anyone else. Because I don't think it is that the person who is pushing for higher metrics thinks that they're better than anyone else. I think more so there's just a drive behind that of like wanting to see how far you can push it and how much you can gain. And if you find something that you love and are really good at, such as potentially trading, then there is the potential there. Like, trading has huge upside potential, but you do have to be able to hold steady psychologically. And this is kind of the core of an underpinning that can really be harmful to pushing those upper boundaries if we're constantly finding ourselves self-sabotaging as we reach that upper limit. And so, every trader is different, but like, you could think money should be hard, and it doesn't actually grow on trees. And if trading becomes easy, then I'm probably missing something, and the other shoe is going to drop. And all traders struggle and most quit. So the fact that I'm struggling is just normal. I always am one mistake away from losing everything. I haven't tilted in a while, so I'm sure I'm going to tilt. Those are things that we could tell ourselves that really will hold us back and keep us within our normal limit that we're used to versus reframing that. And so what I love about the book is that he kind of lays out in the beginning what it can look like to reach the ceilings in different areas, in finances and success and money and relationships, and how different examples pulled themselves back in by having to fight, by blowing their money, by making poor business choices and letting opportunities go. And then there's some deep work that has to come. And he worked with people over the years in terms of pushing their upper limits. He's a consultant on the subject, among other things, as an author as well. And he gave so many examples of this exact situation where you would achieve higher success in the area you were hunting for success at, and then you would pull yourself back down. So this was very common. And so what has to happen there is a mindset shift, an awareness of the situation, what you are doing, and the way that he phrased in the book was constantly ask yourself, if you are encountering a potential self-sabotage situation, a difficult situation after a period of success, we need to, as traders, as humans, as pursuers of higher wealth and success, we need to ask ourselves when we encounter those days, could this be an upper limit problem? Have I been doing so well? Am I doing behaviors that I know not to do, such as over leveraging, such as moving our stops, such as pulling that daily loss limit and monkeying around? If I am pulling behavior like that, is it because I'm feeling abundant in other areas and I may be in a situation where I'm self-sabotaging? And just the awareness to ask ourselves that question is powerful, because that has the potential of reminding us that we are worthy and that we can achieve higher than that and that we can push to greater success. And one thing, a concept that he introduced earlier in the book towards the middle, was the idea of that we have different zones of capabilities. I think they are zone of incompetence, zone of competence, zone of excellence, and zone of genius. And so you see the progression there, right? And they are that basically it says, do what is the most time, money, value opportunity for you. That is where your energy should go. So if there's something that you're really bad at and but it still needs to get done and it is not a money maker for you, you don't enjoy it, it doesn't make you money, it doesn't bring you success, it's not good for your family, yet it feels like something you have to do, can that be offloaded? Can someone else do that? If you have some financial abundance, but you're not a great housekeeper or a great chef or you don't love shopping, can you have someone do your shopping? Can you do clickless and have it delivered? Can you are you to a place where you can have someone do your house cleaning, do things around your home so that you can use your time most effectively? Say that you are a really good trader or a business person, or it is of your highest value to have the deepest bonds with your family. And so you need you want extra time to be with your family. That is where you are achieving success for your life, is in those moments. That is where you are being excellent and or genius level at. And so the areas where you are incompetent or just competent, you're okay. It's not a big deal. It doesn't bring you wealth, health, or happiness. It just is kind of a neutral zone. Is there a way that you can do less of the things that are not your favorite or not moving the dial or are just not even bringing you joy or success, and lean into all of your priority is on the things that do enlighten your life and bring you the wealth and success? Like if I am really good at trading at market open, how can I put a lot of other things in the back burner and really focus at that time? Because I recognize that is when I have my most successful trades. So then in that situation, I want to prioritize that time is for that purpose. And this time in a 24-hour period, New York open session, where my trading strategy is at its highest success rate, is only for an hour or two every day, Monday through Friday. And so that time should be reserved and protected for that purpose. That is a wealth builder for me. That's a success builder. That builds my confidence as a trader. That helps me engage with other market open traders who might be in my communities and active at that time. And so this is me prioritizing my zone of genius and or zone of excellence that I'm trying to improve and increase up to the zone of genius. And so I really want to focus on prioritizing those activities that are in my highest success rate areas of effort, because I can lean into knowing that I'm really good at this. And so for traders, are you super patient? Is it the time of day? Is it a certain style that you are good at trading? Are you an excellent swing trader? So you want to be in a swing trading community and be fostering those beliefs and those behaviors and those strategies and executing them and in communities that talk about them because you have had your most success in that trading style. So that is your zone of genius within the trading world. And so then you want to prioritize efforts that strengthen that, because then you can build more abundance. If it's an area of your life that you already have abundance, lean into that. It's like leaning into your strength. Like a runner is not necessarily going to make it to the Olympics for golfing. Maybe he really enjoys golfing on Sundays, though, in his downtime. But his skill is he is wicked fast sprinter. Well, then for his main pursuit, maybe he focuses on that running and he just enjoys the other things in a time and a place that fits. And so that is focusing on your zone of genius for your highest success opportunities. And I kind of love that your edge gets to be where you are exceptional at. And that needs to be the focus for most of your time. And that was such a good reminder to me that I don't have to tackle everything. And if there are parts of my life that I'm actually not amazing at, then I should see if I can offload those and have someone else take care of those for me, my husband, a family member, or a paid service or something, so that I can focus on my zone of genius if I really want to move the dial and know that those are the things that break my ceiling faster. Now, Gay Hendricks, the author, was really kind to us because he did say and normalize the fact that fear is a part of growth, and that fear often presents itself right before periods of breakthrough because you are pushing your boundaries, you're pushing to something that's uncomfortable, and it's scary. It's scary for humans to know that, like, if I do this thing, it could not work. And there's no guarantees. And I know that when I do this baseline stuff, I'm getting by okay. Like maybe you're even a little better than okay. Maybe you're doing pretty well. And so by pushing to higher metrics, if you fail, how might that feel? What is your capital investment that you could lose if that doesn't work? There is fear around that increasing a risk that you might be taking. And it's not because necessarily you're on the wrong path. I think that's a misconception, is that if you are afraid and it's scary and there's risk, that it's not right. And so you should stay where you're comfortable. I think that's a misconception because leaving our comfort zone always creates fear. It just does. Like when you get a new job, I don't know who gets butterflies on the first day of their new job, but you work through those butterflies, right? You need the job. You want the health benefits. You need the paycheck. You have to work through the discomfort of not knowing anyone, not understanding the policy, not knowing who to ask, not knowing how to do exceptional work yet. But when you get through those entry-level parts of those jobs, then you can get to a beautiful abundance where you could end up like managing the company in a short order of time if you become really excellent there. So pushing through boundaries with next levels is an always part of life, like we first day of high school, first day of college, first day of whatever program you get in, new to a community is a little bit uncomfortable. Doesn't mean that those things were ever wrong, right? But I think we put it in a different scope when we get into adulthood, for starters, because we're not growing at the same rate in some ways. But then also once you're managing a home or a lifestyle and you're okay, there maybe it feels like more risk, different risk, I don't know, to be pushing to like real success numbers when you are you're holding your own and you are managing, you're responsible for maybe more than just yourself at that point.
Just a quick pause before we get into this. Training can be intense, and staying mindful during your session matters so much. That's why I created and am sharing a free 3-part audio experience that's helped me deeply. 1 for starting your day with calm intention, 1 to stay centered while you trade, and 1 to wind down with grace when it's time to stop. These tracks are yours. Just click the link in the description.
It's important to constantly kind of push that. And the ways that we as traders can do that is hold our winners longer, increase our size, leverage up appropriately. And so that we can start to slowly kind of slide our edge up as we're getting more skilled, our win rate is increasing, more consistent with our entry and exit criteria, then you can start to leverage up and less trading, right? Sometimes over trading is a side effect of kind of sabotaging ourselves. But instead, like firing full size at our best opportunity is a sign that we are believing in ourselves and we're pushing our boundaries and we want bigger wins and we want to fire full size at a great setup so that we can hold some runners on that trade and capitalize more fully on it. Maybe it's a trade that lasts, a couple months. You've been taking like $500, $600, $700, $800 on it based on your size that you're taking, but it has a really good win rate and you're starting to see it in a repeatable pattern. You're starting to see it faster. Have more faith in it. Maybe you add a clip of some size and you start to make, $1,000 consistently on it. And it's not a huge jump for your brain, but you're starting to trust your edge. And that means that you get to slowly push your limits. And it's not quite as startling because it's built with evidence, personal evidence of what you have achieved and what you could achieve. And so that is an example of how as traders, we can push past this ceiling type of energy and let the excitement scare you a little bit, but not hold you back, I guess. And so it's unfamiliar, sure, but it's still achievable. And I love how he kind of lays that out there. Again, the book has many beautiful examples, and I don't want to tell you all of them because I want you to read it. I think it's super good. But I think that a lot of traders don't expect that. I know another misconception is that consistently profitable traders, everything just gets easier. But I would argue against that because I've been consistently profitable for periods and then I've had time to backslide. And in researching successful traders, their trajectories haven't always been perfect either. There has been like you push new boundaries, you take on more responsibilities, you take on more money that you're managing. And then there's stumbling blocks. There's little things that you encounter, different areas of resistance, and that will question your ability to keep pushing forward. But this is where in this level, in the big leap, you have to trust yourself to be able to navigate them because of the track record of trusting yourself thus far to even get yourself to that situation, right? You wouldn't be in this place to be challenged in this way if you didn't become the trader that got yourself to this ability to read, to understand, to have this sort of leverage possibility. And so then it's kind of like a faith in yourself type of energy in order to leap through these ceilings that this book is talking about. It's to challenge these next thresholds and, stay humble through it because there's no reason to make it weird and like to have an ego with it, because that is another way that you can self-sabotage yourself, is getting too much in the ego and overconfidence. But instead, like, lock in, like steady belief in yourself, humility, starting to manage larger position size steadily and letting it grow and knowing that you'll have some emotions with it and working through them, but not letting that really impact your strategy was a big part of this, of like, even when you get emotional and scared or whatever, you have to push to create a new identity. And the identity conversation in this book was good because we've talked about that in other Market Mamas episodes as well, of like changing your identity to a trader who has higher number of win rates takes intention. It takes time to think, I have shown up for the work. And so I get to be a trader who makes XYZ a month because of really good trading. And it doesn't mean that I'm perfect. And to say, I don't have to be a perfect trader to make this profits, but I understand the market really well. And when I see my really great trades, I want to swing at them and I want to let it build and compound over time. And that was such a good reminder in that book when it talked about identity, because that is a part of making the big leap that the whole book is focused around, of like, use the fact that you need to challenge your identity and challenge what you have allowed yourself to believe that you were worth so far, and let it say, should I adjust this differently? Do I need to ask questions of the mentor? Not, am I worthy of this? Because we have to be able to believe that we're constantly worthy of pushing through this. So if you are encountering resistance in your own trading and business journey where you're questioning things like that, that's where I want us all to remember what we did to get us there. So instead of thinking that we don't get to have a success, if we're encountering some roadblocks, instead break it down to literal, like on the charts, right? Is the market shifting? Do I need to speak to another mentor about what's going on? How did I miss that trade? Is my strategy need refining? Not, am I failing as a trader, but how can I improve my strategy in order to have consistency right now? And so that becomes not an identity issue, but instead like a business piece of the puzzle that you're working through. And I love that because it's like a conscious choice to break it down and recognize that you're still growing beautifully. And there's just pieces of your work that have to grow with you. And so in that way of like capturing thoughts that could be, oh, here comes the tilt day, it's going to lose. Instead, just let each day come and go and recognize that you're leaning into your edge and that you've come this far. You didn't come this far to just come this far, right? Which I love that whole idea. And so I think it's good to like have a conscious choice around this. And so that was something in the book as well that was a great reminder of a conscious choice to believe in who we are and where we're going and the energy behind what we've already created and what we still can create. Because deciding to be a consistently profitable trader is important as in trading. Like the whole concept around decision is so powerful. And that was a part of this as well, of like, decide to believe in yourself and the person that you are becoming and your capabilities of achieving these higher metrics. Envision what that looks like for you. And then if something comes up that you're questioning whether or not you're worthy or if this is okay, or you get really sick at the day of a big opportunity, like that could be your body trying to pull you back in. And instead say to your mind, like what he said a few times out the book, of ask yourself, could this be an upper limit problem? Am I upper limiting myself? And so then if that is a potential yes, like then right there you've put awareness on what could be going on. And so in that moment, that's where I want us, myself included, to focus back in on my system, my strategy, my people. What got me here is actually still underneath me and is still powerful. So just let it be a day, give myself grace, like let it reset, because we can expand that capacity for success, which I love that he is telling, the examples in the book. and himself throughout his life and us, the readers, that we can expand that capacity for success. And so it's a really valuable idea that you don't have to eliminate the fear, but instead you can expand your ability to feel the fear, but not have it affect your behavior. So you get to be afraid and have butterflies. You get to have increased heart rate when you're trading a little bigger size. You can be nervous. You can have sweaty palms. You can need to pace your office, which I have done when I am trading a little bit bigger size. And that fear gets to live. It gets to be a part of this process. But what it doesn't get to do is hold you back or to change your strategy. Because if you have a strategy for this, right? If you're leveraging up, it should be for a reason on certain trades that you understand and within your account's threshold and margin of error if the trade goes against you. And so you get to execute despite fear. And I think that's a big part of breaking through our upper limits is by executing despite fear and holding that faith in what we have built to get there. And that allows the consistency to grow with our success. One other component of this book was about Einstein time. I don't know if you guys have heard this, but Newtonian time is the traditional, like there's only so many hours in a day and you can't make time. You just have to live with what you have. And it's kind of mainstream and time is a scarce source. It's rigidly divided. You can only get X, Y, Z done. But Einstein time was kind of looped in the concept of relativity. And time can be relative. And so we have some control over our time, which the first time I read that chapter, I was like, okay, because we only have so much time in a day, right? Like, question it. But the more he explains it in the book, which I would encourage you to read because I can't do it full due justice here. But I did have an aha moment because it's like you can have control over how you execute your time. You can choose to say, I am not available for that today. I love that as a priority. And I think maybe I can fit it in after this next couple of weeks that are super crazy. But right now, I'm going to choose to do these certain things that are within my zone of genius, happening right now, applicable. I'm fired up about them. And this is where my energy needs to be. And so you have time to, I guess, be in alignment with your goals. And so that ties in really well with the zone of genius because it's basically saying I have plenty of time to do the things that really matter. One of the examples in the book was that, maybe your family really wants you to play a game with them and you just can't because you're really trying to get this piece of work done that's really important. But then, heaven forbid, someone falls down the stairs and gets an injury, breaks their arm or whatever, immediately the priority is taking that person to the hospital and getting the x-ray and figuring out what they need and everything else can wait. Well, we have time for what needs to have our time. And so to recognize that in our life, maybe you don't want to do this other thing that could take your time, but you will make the time to do this because this has the power to move your dial. This is something that you need to get done for your business, a goal that needs to get handled. Maybe it's a quick task, and so you're just going to knock it out. And I live and die by my to-do list, but I always know on a to-do list for a given week what the priorities are and which day they have to be turned in by to meet, certain posting a podcast deadline and when I need to trade and when I am committed to being on screen for whatever have you, what my kids' events are that are a priority for them. So they're a priority for me. And so by previously having an outline of what I want to do and then knowing what the highest value items are for where I'm trying to build my life, then I have enough time for the main core things and everything else is a little bit extra and you get to put it in where you want it to. But I like the idea of Einstein time because time in that way can be relative to what our highest priorities are. And so I think that that is a great way of looking at time and tying that into the zone of genius and how we can make our lives really work for us and what we're trying to build. And I love that idea because I do have a lot of pans in the fire a lot of times. And I do have 3 children. And so I am constantly having to prioritize my time, but I'm getting better at it the more I go along with this. Like, can I have someone help me with this aspect of these business things so that I can only do this because I need to do this to fully understand what's going on with the markets and where I'm at with my trading and what I want to do here and get it all done by 5 so that we can have a family evening because of this event at the school or whatever. And so I love that concept of tying in relative time to our zone of genius and making choices in your life that are of the highest value for the identity that you prioritize. If it's family, if it's love, if it's success, if it's business, if it's trading, like make sure you're putting your time on your highest ticket items and you have that capability. Like, sure, we could say there's only so much time in the day, but if you cut out all timeless, mindless, brainless scrolling and, binge watching, there's so much more time potentially there, depending on what your habits are, that you could utilize for something that actually would really progress you. And so that's something to really think about. Now, some of the core concepts, we've covered a lot of them, but our identity has to break through with this. And so that was something that really kind of sunk in with me of like, if I'm upper limiting myself, I want to catch it in real time, which he recommends, like try to have constant self-awareness of like, if you are experiencing something kind of negative in your life, what I took away from the book is if I'm experiencing something kind of negative in my life, such as a losing day or getting sick on the day where I'm trying to do a lot of things, like, is that me potentially putting myself back in the comfort zone of like, I don't need to show up to all these spaces and do all these great things. Like, what if I just stop doing all this extra stuff that I know and just chill and like go back to, what was expected of me of like just having a one career as a nurse, which is a great career, but like not doing all the extra things that I'm doing, not pursuing being an excellent day trader and an inspiring psychological coach or what have you. Like, some of those things are hard and uncomfortable for me certain times. Sometimes I have a losing trade and it's really a bummer. And so to choose to not have those discomforts in my life would make it easier in a lot of ways. But I wouldn't be pushing my boundaries and pushing my identity. And so that's a choice. It's a decision. And so it's not going to be familiar, but it could absolutely be worth it. And so in those moments when I'm having a period where I am holding myself back or something not ideal is happening in my life, I'm going to shift that now after reading this book. And I'm going to ask myself, is this an upper limit problem? And I could be uncomfortable because I'm getting ready to push through a ceiling. And I am all about breaking ceilings because especially in trading, I mean, it's such a beautiful opportunity of like, you can make so much money. Like there's so many examples of traders who have really built very successful trading accounts and done amazing things with their trading profits. And that is because of you're becoming a person who is tolerant of those profits and accepts the small loss and builds their system and stays in rooms that only serve them and has a tight circle of the people that are really empowering to them and lets the fluff fall away, doesn't waste their time on things that they're just incompetent or competent with, because there's just too much more cool stuff that will break those ceilings that can take our energy. I think it's a good argument that our opponents are not really on the outside. Like the market is not out to get us. No market makers are hunting our stops necessarily. There's some debate there. But our future is in our control. And I love that aspect of this of like, it's normal if you are encountering this resistance because I have. And I like that this book normalizes that and gives a ton of examples in different parts of life and entrepreneurial pursuits and what have you. And I think it was really good for me to hear that fear is just a part of the process, and hesitation and anxiety and nerves. Like you get to have butterflies when you're trading a big size. You get to have butterflies when you're going on camera. You get to have butterflies when you are pushing and copying a couple of accounts instead of just trading one solo. Whatever your means of pushing to higher goals should be uncomfortable, and you don't have to be fearless, but you just want to be logical about it and have a process and go for it. And I love that whole thing. Like one of the quotes that I really liked is about the only thing that ultimately limits us is our belief about how much success, love, and creativity we can allow ourselves to enjoy. And so I think that the market isn't really the limiter of our potential, but our subconscious limits really are. I think they play into a ton of aspects of our entire like approach to our growth and our momentum in this world. And I think that we have a lot of potential to break through our subconscious mental mindset limits. Okay, so towards the end of the book, it really encouraged everyone to have an ultimate success mantra. And what the ultimate success mantra was, I'm going to read it so I get it right. It was what he recommends, what he does, and what he says to try and adapt in your mindset all the time is I expand in abundance, success, and love every day as I inspire those around me to do the same. And I love that. So expansion, right? I expand, success, abundance, love. Those are all really good feeling things that people will often hold themselves back in. And so I expand in abundance, success, and love. And as I inspire others to do the same. So it's about putting out there the energy that you want to make sure that you're embodying. And I think that that makes the world a better place. But also it puts it in every aspect of your life of like, I want to be successful and loving and be loved and feel abundant. And I want everyone around me to have that same experience because there really is enough in this world for us all to feel abundant, successful, and happy. We don't necessarily have to keep pulling ourselves back to be normal. Like normal is fine, but and to cheers to everyone who is content there. But if you are less content in normal and you want to leap forward to bigger goals of success and love and happiness, then I do think it's possible. And I do think the books like The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks are a factor for this because for me, it got through. And I have been in the trading psychology space for years now, and it has transformed me as a human and me as a trader. And so I know now that this work that I'm doing in trading psychology is changing my outlook and my approach and my success and my habits. And so I crave more of it. And this book was just another beautiful addition to that work. And so I really do recommend that you guys get it. There's actually a link in the description to get that book off of Amazon, but also like you could get it anywhere. It's been out there in a while. This author has written multiple books because he's, become an expert in this field for over decades and decades of work in the psychology world. So anyhow, that's my overview of the content of this book and the main lessons that I took away from it, because that's the core of it, right? That's why this book stuck with me, and I had to re-listen to it a second time and then come to you guys with an episode, because I do find a lot of value here, and I'm all about bringing things of value at Market Mamas, and I want us all to succeed. And this is a part of that, like figuring out how to quiet our subconscious that is trying to hold us back because of fear, and recognizing that we can push through the fear to change our identity and grow into the person who has our biggest dreams achieved. So cheers to breaking ceilings. Like whether you're a trader, a man, woman, like whatever, from abundance or from scarcity, like cheers to a big leap through to the next levels above, and not stopping, because we don't need to hold ourselves back. Take care, everyone.